before smartphones learned to track our every step, and before we measured time in notifications, there lived a man named Kofi, a businessman known for his packed calendar and constant motion. Kofi believed that a man who stayed still too long would be forgotten by opportunity, so he traveled often boarding planes like others boarded buses, carrying contracts, ambitions, and expensive luggage from city to city. But Kofi had one weakness. He trusted his schedule more than the mysteries that shape our days. On the morning his fate changed, Kofi's alarm didn't go off. The phone that ruled his life had died silently in the night. Ignoring the charger he thought he'd plugged in properly, he jolted awake to sunlight already late. Panic flooded his chest. He was supposed to catch flight for 7 to Lagos, a 6-hour journey that would put him across the table from investors who could change everything. The meeting was set. The presentation was ready. His future was waiting in a conference room 3,000 miles away. He had exactly 90 minutes to reach the airport. Everything had been perfect the night before. Suit pressed, documents printed, boarding pass downloaded, car service confirmed. Too perfect. His grandmother, who lived in the small room at the back of his house, the one he'd built for her but barely visited, called out as he rushed past her door. "Kofi, when the day fights against you, don't fight back." Kofi barely heard her. He shouted over his shoulder, already halfway out the door, something about not being able to miss this flight. He didn't see her shake her head slowly, the way old women do when they know something the young have forgotten. The Uber arrived 7 minutes late. The driver apologized something about the app glitching, a wrong turn, traffic appearing out of nowhere. Kofi checked his watch every 30 seconds, his jaw tight, his fingers drumming against his knee. Then the highway decided to brake. A truck had jackknifed across 2 lanes. Cars stretched ahead like a parking lot. Helicopters circled overhead. Nobody was moving. Kofi pulled out his phone, searching for alternative routes that didn't exist, rebooking options that had already closed, miracles that refused to appear on any app. 45 minutes passed like hours. When traffic finally lurched forward, they'd lost too much time. The driver took a desperate shortcut through neighborhood streets, racing past corner stores and churches, past people whose lives moved at a different speed. At a narrow intersection, a little girl chased a balloon into the street. The driver slammed the brakes. The balloon escaped toward the sky, red and defiant. The little girl's mother scooped her up, shouting thanks and apologies. Kofi wanted to scream. Instead, he breathed through his teeth and checked his watch again. 3 more minutes gone. They reached the airport with 14 minutes to boarding. Kofi threw money at the driver, grabbed his bag, and ran. His leather shoes slapped against polished floors. His perfectly pressed suit began to wrinkle with sweat. He dodged travelers moving at reasonable speeds, ignored the coffee vendor he usually stopped at, sprinted past the bookstore and the charging stations and the bathrooms. The departure board still showed his flight, Gate 27. He ran harder. His lungs burned. His bag banged against his hip. His phone buzzed with calendar reminders about a meeting he was about to miss. When he reached Gate 27, the desk was empty. The doorway was closed. The bridge to the plane had already pulled away. Through the window, he could see Flight 447 backing slowly from the terminal, preparing to taxi toward its fate. Kofi fell into a chair. Not sat fell. The overnight bag slipped from his shoulder and hit the floor. For a moment, he just stared at nothing, his mind blank with disbelief. Then the anger came, hot, burning, unreasonable. He wanted to punch something, sue someone, scream at the universe for its cosmic incompetence. Why today? He whispered to himself. Why this flight? He thought about the glitching alarm, the late driver, the traffic that appeared from nowhere, the little girl and her stupid balloon. Every small delay had multiplied into this moment. He pulled out his phone to call the investors, to apologize, to explain. But before he could dial, a sound moved through the terminal. Quiet at first, a gasp, then louder a cry. A man's voice, shaking. "Oh my God!" Screens around the terminal flickered to the news. A reporter's face, trying to stay professional while horror lived in her eyes. Breaking news. Flight 447. Lost contact. 20 minutes after takeoff. The words came in fragments. Mechanical failure. Rapid descent. Search and rescue. No survivors expected. The phone slipped from Kofi's hand. His whole body went cold, then numb, then too hot. The terminal around him dissolved into chaos, screaming, crying, people on phones, people collapsing. Airline staff running, security trying to manage something unmanageable. But Kofi sat perfectly still. Flight 447. His flight. His seat 17C window, just like always. The meeting he would have had. The contract he would have signed. The future he'd been chasing. All of it had fallen into the ocean. And he was still here, breathing. Because he'd missed it. Kofi doesn't remember leaving the airport. Doesn't remember the cab ride, or paying the driver, or walking up to his house. He remembers standing at his front door, key in hand, unable to make his fingers work. The door opened anyway. His grandmother stood there, smaller than he remembered. Her eyes wet but not surprised. She didn't say "I told you so," she didn't say anything. She just opened her arms. And Kofi, successful, independent, always in control, Kofi collapsed into them like a child. He cried. Not neat, silent tears, but the kind of crying that empties you completely. His grandmother held him. One hand on his back, one hand on his head, making the same shushing sounds she'd made when he was young and the world was simpler. When he could finally speak, his voice came out broken. "I was supposed to be on that plane." "I know," she said quietly. "The alarm. The traffic ... Everything that went wrong ... I know." She guided him to the kitchen table. The one that had been there longer than he'd been alive. She made him tea he didn't remember asking for. She sat across from him and folded her hands like she was holding something precious and invisible. "When I was young, younger than you are now, I had a friend named Amma. Beautiful girl, smart. She had a job interview in another city, the kind of opportunity that doesn't come twice." Kofi wrapped his hands around the warm cup, listening. The morning she was supposed to leave, her son got sick. Fever. Nothing serious. But he cried every time she tried to go. She missed her bus, then missed the next one. She was so angry she cried. His grandmother smiled sadly at the memory. The bus she was supposed to be on never made it to the city. The brakes failed on a mountain road. 14 people died. Kofi's throat tightened. Amma never got that job. But she got to raise her son. She got to grow old. She got to learn that sometimes what feels like bad luck is grace wearing a disguise. They sat in silence for a long time. Outside, the world continued, cars passing, neighbors talking, life moving forward because it had no choice. "I don't understand. How am I supposed to live with this? Knowing that I'm alive because ... double quotes he couldn't finish. Because you were delayed. Because you were spared?" His grandmother offered gently. He nodded. "You live with gratitude. You live with humility. You live remembering that we don't control as much as we think we do. And you live well, not just for yourself, but for all the people who didn't get another day." Kofi still travels. But he's different now. When his flight is delayed, he doesn't rage at the desk agent. He sits. He breathes. He waits. When traffic appears from nowhere, he turns on music instead of checking the time every 30 seconds. When small disasters multiply, missed alarms, dead batteries, wrong turns, spilled coffee, he's learned to pause and wonder, what is this protecting me from? He started a foundation in memory of the people on flight 447. He visits his grandmother every Sunday, not just when it's convenient. He tips generously and thanks people by name. He still works hard, but he no longer believes that success means fighting every obstacle. Some obstacles are angels in disguise. Some delays are divine intervention. Some closed doors are protection from rooms we were never meant to enter. People still tell Kofi's story in offices during lunch breaks, at family dinners, in group chats late at night when someone shares their frustration about missing something important. They tell it as a reminder, not every missed opportunity is a loss. Not every plan that falls apart is a failure. Not every delay is the universe working against you. Sometimes the detour is the path. Sometimes the obstacle is the answer. Sometimes what saves your life looks exactly like the worst day you've ever had. And that is why, even now, people say, if your plans fall apart, don't just curse the chaos. Consider that you might be being saved from something you cannot see. The flight you miss might be the flight that saves you.